Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. My name is DV LeBron. Today, my very special guest is a brother in arms, Marine veteran, coffee extraordinaire, and a man of purpose, Mr. Steven Ferguson. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing good, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you again for coming on the show. I do appreciate it. I love for my brothers and sisters in arms to tell their stories because we all went through some stuff and seen some stuff, and those of us who keep going, we have amazing stories that we have to tell. And what I found in a lot of times when I've been interviewing these people is the amazing purpose that we found after our military lives in service. And I've interviewed so many like that with so much purpose. So I'm grateful you came on, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So you were 9 years in the Marine Corps. Can you tell me more about your Marine days and your deployments and stuff?
Yeah, dude. So I joined the Marine Corps in 2010. I joined fresh out of high school. I was looking at college and, I got accepted to a couple of places and I was like, don't really want to spend $200,000 I ain't got on a piece of paper. I'll join the Marine Corps and do something with my life. I'll know I'm having an impact on the world. And so I joined the Marine Corps Infantry, ended up deploying in 2011 for the first time. At the time, like we were surging and it was a bit of a kinetic deployment. I made it through. I can't say the same for everybody in the platoon. And that was hard, but those of us that made it back, we came back and wanted to continue living and honoring the people that we lost on the deployment. 2013, I did another deployment to Afghanistan. At this point, we were starting to demill some of the bases, at least in Helmand. I don't know about the rest of the country at the time, but Helmand, we were demilitarizing some of the bases there. Spent my time demilling. It wasn't nearly as kinetic, although we did get into some gunfights towards the end. Saw some funny things. I saw a group of British snipers yelling at an Apache because they were, and I'm quoting here, "You're stealing our kills." I just thought that was the funniest thing ever, dude. These British guys yelling on the radio, trying to get the air asset away from us.
That is
Um,
not something you call away. Normally, when that air acid's in there, you're thankful.
no kidding, dude. The British are crazy. They're wild. I loved having them on the team because they were something else. And came back from that deployment, deployed again to Europe this time in 2015. They say it was a crisis response mission. We never got called for the mission, so it was really just a European vacation on the government's time. Leastwise, that's what I say. Other people might have a different opinion of the thing, but I just explored Spain, Italy, Bulgaria, and mostly just hung out. We did
Oh,
some
you
training
poor
with some.
thing.
I know it was so rough. Hey, look, okay, we went to Bulgaria for 2 weeks and that was terrible. That was miserable. I've never been more cold my entire life. It was horrible.
I
We
could
we showed
imagine.
up, dude. We were supposed to have barracks. We didn't have barracks. I mean, it's the Marine Corps. What do you expect? They're like, here's
Hmm.
some tents. Get on, get out of here, get out. We don't want
Hmm.
you around. So we posted up in our tents, and then it proceeded to rain until every piece of gear we had was soaked through, and then it started to snow. Everybody in the platoon got sick. It was terrible.
There was some serious ice everywhere.
It was brutal.
At least you got to see the Spain and stuff. I still have yet to travel to Europe. I've been all over the Middle East and Asia and stuff like that, but I never got a chance to go. But I will by the time I retire here soon. I'm getting out there, definitely. One of the most troubling parts is transitioning when we're coming out of the military, and many of our brothers and sisters, that was the war they didn't survive when they came home and had to transition to life out there. Can you talk to me about your transition and what you went through?
Oh, it was brutal. Honestly, I have no business still being here. I should have been one of the statistics straight up. As I was getting out, I was actually medically retired for PTSD in 2019. A few months before I was retired, one of my best friends and my roommate at the time took his life. And that completely, I mean, I was already not in a good place, but his death completely derailed every attempt I had made at rebuilding my life and rebuilding myself. And, he had everything going for him. It was really a case of like, dude, you did not see that coming. It
Yeah.
really put me in a bad place, much worse than I already was. And when I did get retired, and the support group of your friends and your colleagues is no longer there, I started to spiral downwards. Things got really dark really fast. I felt like I was trapped in a room chained to the floor, and it was slowly filling with water. I mean, I knew that I was going to die. I just didn't know when, and I didn't want to die. I didn't want to kill myself, but I did everything I could, and I couldn't escape it. It just seemed inevitable. I was going to the VA, talking to a psychologist. I was on their medication. I was doing everything that you're supposed to do, and it wasn't getting better. It really wasn't until I got my service dog that things started to change. I'd gone to my psychologist and I told her, I think a service dog would do a lot of good for me. And she agreed. And we put together a little package to send to the VA. And the VA was like, there ain't even any evidence that works. And I was like, okay, well, that's crazy. Well, there's nonprofits out there, so maybe I'll go with one of them.
They're more than happy to throw pills at you, though. The VA.
Oh yeah,
They
dude, I had so many pills. So many
They,
pills that
they,
honestly probably shouldn't have been gotten. I
yeah,
mean, I was prescribed Adderall for PTSD. How does that make
yeah.
sense,
When I got back, they were just like handing out bottles of Xanax. Here you go. Like they were just throwing pills at you. So when you say that, all the dogs did evidence, but they were real keen to throw pills at you at the time. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That
and
is
somewhat
terrible.
ironically, they had a study going on with service dogs at the time, and that study came back as showing that there is actual tangible benefit for more than half of veterans that are placed with a service dog. And so, they're to my face saying, nah, I ain't no evidence of it. Their study is ongoing at the time, showing that there is actually evidence that supports service dogs as a modality for treatment of PTSD. So I went to the nonprofits, and there's a lot of them out there doing really great work. This isn't a dig on them. This is, there's a lot of guys and gals that need service dogs, and
Hmm.
there's only so many resources to go around. Their wait lists are like 24 to 36 months, and if you're in crisis, that
Not
that
gonna
ain't
work.
that gonna work. I mean, we're talking if you want a service dog when you get out of the military, you have to apply after you've been in for 12 months. Dude, who's thinking about that? 12 months into your military career.
You don't even know
You're
you don't even know that gonna have an issue or that you're gonna be dealing with anything at that time, and you got to apply at that time, right?
dude, you're still pooping out chow hall food at that point.
So you went and got this dog, and you self trained.
I had a trainer myself. Yeah, I had no idea. I'd never trained a dog before my entire life. So you can imagine. I got very lucky in that there was actually an organization that trained every Thursday and Sunday, not but 10 minutes from where I lived at the time. Those organizations aren't common. So it's very fortuitous that actually played out the way it did. Andy McTeague, who runs Veteran Canine Intelligence Academy, does a great job. He really helps a lot of veterans in the Southern California area. If it weren't for them, I never would have been able to train my dog to be my service dog. And she was the entire reason that things started to turn around for me. It wasn't until I got her that
What
life
what
started
is
to
it about?
actually get better.
What is it about those dogs, brother? What was it for you?
I think one of the biggest things was one, it forced me to get out of my comfort zone. At this time in my life, even going to the grocery store is a challenge, right? Leaving the
Yeah.
apartment for any reason is a challenge. I feel unsafe, not a great time leaving that apartment, but I've got this dog and she's amazing and I already love her. And this is like day one. And I'm like, oh, this dog needs to go on an adventure. And that means that I need to leave the house. And because I'm already like attached to this creature, I'm more willing to push myself out of my comfort zone and force myself to get out there and start being in environments that I don't want to be in, but arguably probably should be in. And in addition to that, having this companion or this battle buddy or whatever verbiage it is that you used when you were in the military, having that person by your side, or that, in this case, that dog that's by your side, no matter what, to watch your six, to go through whatever life throws at you, that is incredibly powerful. Add into that my dog in particular, she is incredibly sensitive and attuned to my emotional state. And so if I'm starting to feel anxiety or depression or some kind of trigger with my PTSD, dude, she is there and she is on it. There is no hesitation. And the wildest thing is that I didn't train her to do any of that. She picked up on it on her own, which is great because I had no idea what I was doing. I just barely taught her to sit down, stay, and recall, and she's like, damn, this dude he's struggling. I'm just going to help him out and do the things that he needs.
She became what you needed, which is amazing how pets and animals become part of you that way. They become what you need. My pug was far from a service dog. He was a pain in the butt when I first got him. It was from my wife. But that pug, I mean, every time I was out of it, go sit right there in between my legs. Whenever I had my surgeries and, life really sucked, try to be a healing dog. Nobody taught that pug that. They figured that out, and they can feel you, and they really have an effect on your mental state. They really do. They bring, because they love you, and it truly is unconditional, except they want you to feed them. My German Shepherd's got to eat. Loves me, but food is definitely it. When did you notice the turnaround there with your dog? From there, where did life take you?
I think there was an immediate impact, at least in retrospect. I mean, it's been a while, so things are a little bit foggy. It was a dark time. The memory isn't totally there. I think it started to be almost immediate. And at some point within the first 6 months of having her, I was like, oh, this is wild. I'm actually going out and doing things now. I'm going to the bagel shop and getting a bagel and sitting there and drinking some coffee and just sort of hanging out and actually being around people again. And that might not sound like much, but for me, that was a big deal. I took her to go get groceries with me. We would go on walks. We walked all over Lake Forest where we were living. And again, that was not behavior that I partook in before I got her. So she really pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And she was really that force that got me to start doing the things that would end up leading to healing. And in addition to that, just the love that she showed me and the safety that she presented to me, it really gave me the opportunity to do the challenging and difficult internal work that would lead to, healing on the long-term basis as well.
When did you find a purpose to say, hey, look, I've come from my darkest times, and what I've come out from it is that I want to help vets? And how did you go about it?
That really started to take shape before I had even fully found my footing. I started to recognize the power of service dogs and what they can do for people transitioning from the military to civilian life, or people that are challenged with, PTSD or any other kind of mental health issues. I really started to want to give back by helping veterans get service dogs. And so I ended up being a trainer for VCIA, the same folks that taught me how to train my dog. And, I helped veterans train their dogs Thursdays and Sundays. I started to feel like it really wasn't enough of an impact. Like I really wanted to have as big of an impact as possible. And I could only help, one veteran at a time. I wanted to be able to do something more. So I started to search for another way to give back to the veteran community and to help our brothers and sisters that are struggling.
Yeah. And you went on and you started getting into business because you're an entrepreneur. You kind of, in reading your story, you kind of moved into that field. And it sounds like you started moving to that while in purpose of trying to help others. So tell me about that journey.
Yeah, it was a wild journey. I kind of stumbled into entrepreneurship. I'd read a couple of books and I was like, yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. I went and founded a C Corp and I was like, I'm a business owner. I can do this. I didn't even have a business plan, dude. I had a C Corp, but I didn't know anything about anything. So I started volunteering my time essentially to work with some founders in the Orange County area. And, they taught me some things. They also taught me a lot about what not to do just by virtue of what they were doing. And it took me a while to come to the place where I felt like I had a good handle on business and I'd be able to actually venture out on my own and build something meaningful and build something that would actually work. And so I want to say it was about 2 years after I got Venus that my best friend and I were looking for that business market to be in that we could use to fund at the time getting service dogs for veterans. And we kind of settled upon coffee. It was initially an apparel company, but the more I dug into it, the more I felt like it just didn't feel like the right move. So we started researching other things that we could do, and we settled
On coffee of all things, huh?
yeah, well,
I
I
just
mean, if you're a veteran, you get out, you found a coffee company or you found an apparel company. We were right in line with what everybody else does.
But coffee is very much part of who we were and who we are. I mean, coffee and more so your generation, probably Monsters and Red Bull is what kept us going. You know, in my generation, it was a lot and a lot of coffee, like unhealthy amounts of coffee that kept me going. So it is part of who we are. So it just makes sense that we would get into that. But I mean, how does one get into coffee?
You sample a lot of coffee is what you do. And the funny thing is that I thought I was drinking great coffee my entire life. You know, I had my bag of Starbucks, Pikes Peak, you know, and it's like, yeah, great coffee. I drink only the best, you know. And I started to collect samples from some of these small family-owned roasters that, you know, don't know more about coffee than Starbucks will ever know. That they've forgotten more about coffee than Starbucks will ever know about coffee, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I started sampling it and I was like, oh, I have been drinking terrible coffee my entire life. This is insane. Ended up narrowing the offering down to a small family roaster that aligned with like my belief, you know, treating the farmers fairly, giving them a fair wage, you know, implementing programs to ensure the future sustainability of the industry. I mean, I think they've planted like 1 million trees in Kenya. They just really do amazing work. And so that felt like a natural partnership to me. So we went and drew up some partnership paperwork, and now they're our coffee roaster and they roast amazing product. I'm happy to be working with them. And that's a coffee company right there. The only other thing you really need is a website. And we have one of those. That was a struggle to build.
The website could be more complicated than anything else. I mean, it could be. I've tried that. Mine is very rudimentary Wix version, but I mean, it was the best I could figure out, you know, because there's so much to it. But tell me, how have you tied this coffee company to the thing that you're passionate about? And that's, you know, 22 a day of our brothers and sisters, you know, and that number fluctuates, but it doesn't matter. If it's more than one, if it's one, it's enough. How have you tied those two things together?
So what we do and the mission and the vision behind Honor Guard Coffee is that we donate a quarter of our profits to organizations that are combating the suicide crisis, whether it's Veteran Canine Intelligence Academy in Orange County or the Heavy Hitters Project, which is brand new. One of my friends that I knew from 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines just founded that 2 months ago, already saved 8 lives, prevented 8 suicides. So just incredible work. A quarter of our profits are supporting these organizations. And, you know, through my time building this company and working with those founders in Orange County, I learned a lot about organizational development and what it takes to scale an organization up and increase its impact or accomplish its mission. So another thing that I'm doing is I'm providing consulting services to a lot of these smaller nonprofits that are having this, you know, outsized impact for the amount of resources that they actually have.
Yeah, it is only by the grace of God, because there was no way that I should be here. You know, I know so many that didn't make it. For me, it was God. For others, I don't care how you get there, brothers and sisters. If you're watching this and you're hurting, get there any way you can. For me, it was God. For you, it could be coffee. For you, whatever. I don't care. Just survive. Keep going. Keep living a life of purpose. I always like to tell vets to keep going, man. Keep going, because life is so precious, brother, and you understand that. Life is beautiful. With life, if you have life, you have an ability to do better, do more. Once life is over, that's it. Game over. There's no making things better. There's no living out purpose. There's no kindness to somebody else and helping others. It ends right there. all you ever were and all you ever will be. And so I always say, go with life. Go with life always. Now that you've done this coffee thing, what's next for you? I mean, are you still kind of on the ground floor with this? And I mean, are you out in California?
No, I live up in just about an hour outside of Boise, Idaho right now.
Boise. Okay. Nice. I heard it's very beautiful over there in Idaho.
It
So
is.
I
It is
I haven't had a
cold
chance to get
right
out there.
now. It is freezing, but it is beautiful. Yeah, I highly recommend. You know, there's a Nazi problem in the mountains, but just don't go up there and you'll be all right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be a problem. Definitely a problem.
It's
So,
it's wild for sure.
wow. Now, how is like as far as what's next for you? What would you like to see happen going forward as far as in your mission and your purpose? Where do you see success being?
You know, honestly, it's in saving just one more life. I do have a bit of a more grand ambition than that. And I've been advised by mentors and marketers and all these kinds of people to not talk about it because they're like, dude, it's impossible. You'll never get there. And honestly, I told them, well, I don't really care. It's what I'm aiming
They
for,
don't
you
know
know?
Marines, do they?
Yeah, dude. So my goal, yeah, my goal is to end the suicide crisis. It's got no place in this community. So as far as I'm concerned, as long as there's veterans still suffering and still killing themselves, my mission's not done. And in complete and total seriousness, I will fight this fucking fight until I die myself. It's heinous. I abhor it. I've lost way too many friends, and there are way too many good people out there that are suffering. And so my mission through Honor Guard Coffee is to end that crisis and to fund the leaders and the people that are on the ground and in the trenches actually fighting this thing. You know, one of the common threads between all these nonprofits is the lack of funding and the lack of resources. And ultimately, that is why I built and founded Honor Guard Coffee, was to provide those resources to these nonprofits. The
Hmm.
ability to reinforce where there's a gap, you know, where an organization is having an outsized impact for the amount of resources, you know, being able to be nimble and quick and reinforce in those areas. I truly believe that it is possible to end the suicide crisis. And so that's what I'm aiming for. That's what I'm gunning for.
Wow. No, I love it. I love it. 'Cause I stand with you on that. I would love for it to end. My little part of it is helping veterans that have run afoul of the law. There's veterans treatment courts here in Texas, and that's kind of been my little thing where I'm trying to serve some purpose because Lord knows that was one of those things that could have also went sideways during my tunnel time is what I called it. It was deep, dark. Most people have no idea just how dark it gets in there. Just how dark. And I never ever felt like I ever wanted to hurt anyone but me. And
Mm-hmm.
there's so many vets like that. They don't want to hurt another soul ever again in their life. They could live in peace the rest of their life and be okay with it. But they don't like themselves or they can't forgive themselves or, you know, so, really bad things happen in war. And you can't just talk to anybody about it because if you say certain things or if you talk about certain things in a certain way, the way we talk, it's too shocking sometimes. It's too much for people to conceptualize in a way that's non-judgmental, you know? I think that's what I found. When I'm talking with you, my brothers and sisters in arms, we could talk about it. No judgment. We're good. We're handling it. And the one thing that we do understand is when we need to talk about it, we can talk to each other. And that I definitely love. But on my show, brother, because we're coming up on a wrap, and I hope that we can do this again. But on my show, I give my guest the last word. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut up and give you the mic, sir.
Fair enough. Hey, if you're going through it right now, fight and fight like your life depends on it because it probably does. I know what it feels like to not feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, to feel like there's no way that life is going to actually get better. But I'm here to tell you, I've been there and I know what that feels like. You never know where life's going to take you. Never in a million years would I have predicted or thought that I'd be in the position that I am now. And dude, it's worth it to keep fighting, and it's worth it to put in the work, and don't think that there's any one particular path to healing. One thing that I've learned is that there are damn near infinite modalities of healing. If you think that growing plants is cool and like that feeds your soul and you're happy, then lean into that. If dogs do it for you, dude, get a dog and just lean into that. Hell, if knitting is what brings you peace, then lean into it, because there is no wrong answer. Just do what you got to do to find that healing.
Yeah. Get to life. Get to life. Thank you, brother, again for coming on. I hope I could have you on again. And thank you for surviving and living a life of purpose, brother. Can you hang on a minute after the show?
Sure can.
Thank you.